political, economic, and even social issues. And of course, also to give you an opportunity to interact with us and also to be with us. And Bwana Kagi, it is good to be back after a 2 weeks break. And it's good to see you again.
Yeah, very true. It's a half a month you have not been around.
Half a month.
How is the country going on?
Oh, wow. I think I must say that things have been well.
Yeah.
And I also got an opportunity to travel up to Taita Taveta County. And actually the headquarters of the county is a town called Voi.
Yeah.
Quite a good place to be. I can recommend you. Maybe one of these great days when you also have time, you can purpose to visit Voi.
Yeah, I think I'm looking forward to maybe after a long, maybe 12 months of here and there,
Yes.
I can take a break of 1 month and go and see the coastal region and take the breeze of the ocean there.
That's very true. And actually, one of the things that I realized was we used a route where we crisscrossed approximately 10 counties. Because we used the Nakuru, Nyahururu, Nyeri, Kirinyaga, Kitui, then Machakos, Kitui. That is the route that we used up to Voi, 10 counties. And one of the things that I can actually say is that devolution was a great idea because you could see quite a number of developments across these particular counties, all because of the strength and the place of devolution. And therefore, if it is something that we can actually continue to embrace, we can be sure that we can develop our places.
And also believe that somehow you came closer to the popular Shakahola?
The popular Shakahola. Apparently, actually, you see, when most people go to those kind of, go to or travel to those areas, when they come back, most people want to associate them with the Shakahola. But we didn't reach Shakahola. We'd have actually wanted to go and see exactly, there is that feeling that you really want to find out. You've heard of a story, you've heard of a situation whereby more than 250 people, 50 bodies have actually been exhumed.
Yeah.
These are places anybody would want to go and see.
What is happening there.
What's happening there, but we didn't have an opportunity.
All right.
Yes.
That was my biggest news I was waiting from you. But I don't know. It's okay.
Yeah.
You have no news for Shakahola.
Exactly.
Right.
At least we are back and we thank God for today, and we also want to welcome you, our dear viewer, to this particular program. In the next 1.5 hours is the time to be able to look what is it that is happening in our country. Are we heading in the right direction? Are we headed in the wrong direction? Who is not doing what they're supposed to do? Who is actually doing what they're supposed to do? And of course, also to be able to give some analysis. And of course, the biggest story or the biggest news we have, and this is something that has also trended for quite a number of days, a number of weeks, and even maybe months, is the Finance Bill 2023.
Correct.
And apparently this is a topic that, again, Kagi, because of public demand and due to the complexity and to the weight of the matter related to the Finance Bill 2023, this is something that, again, in this particular show, we'll dedicate our time to be able to look into it.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes, and as usual, we are going to do a little bit of highlights of what is happening in our country.
Right.
I think we can pick up one item, Mangicho,
Yes.
which is very prominent for us regarding to the bipartisan talks between the Kenya Kwanza and the Azimio. And yesterday, the Azimio gave a very, very, very huge ultimatum to the government regarding to what is happening regarding to the talks.
Okay.
And one of the issue that was raised by yesterday by the team that was addressing press by evening, they gave the government an ultimatum that by yesterday night, midnight, they would have submitted to the conditions from the Azimio. I don't know whether by midnight they did it, but we are waiting to see whether today there is going to be a development.
Actually, they didn't.
Yeah.
So I think that the deadline has elapsed, and therefore we are expecting now maybe the opposition to make true their threats or maybe the actions that they've already said that they are going to take, because as at midnight, none of those conditions or none of those issues that they wanted addressed
have been met.
Have been met.
And these talks are very key towards the oneness of our nation and also stabilizing our political turmoil, which has been affecting the country since the beginning of this year. And this is one of the areas that we expected to have maybe a consensus on various matters that are affecting our country. And I believe, as by yesterday, the Kenya Kwanza showed signs of commitment towards the talks, because if they don't do that, the Azimio side are giving more threats of demonstrations and putting more on the government to be able to heed to their demands. And one of the fresh demands by yesterday was to ask the Kenya Kwanza government to be able to withdraw the 2023 financial bill, which they are explaining that one of their requests from the Kenya Kwanza, or the government for that matter, is to lower the cost of living for Kenyans. And they are saying if the financial bill 2023 is going to be pushed through the parliament, then the cost of living is not going to remain where it is, but it's going to go even more higher. And therefore, that was a fresh condition by yesterday.
Yes.
And today, we will be following up this matter to see how they are doing about it.
Yeah, actually, that's a major issue that I think the entire country will actually be putting its eyes on, because, Kagi, we know this bipartisan talks, and most Kenyans were actually very hopeful in terms of the success of these bipartisan talks, because we know that they were preceded by the mandamanos, apparently, which were not very peaceful, and the country was almost now beginning to experience the trajectory of chaos, the trajectory of all the issues, to all shenanigans that are related, or they are involved when you talk about mandamano. So these bipartisan talks, from the onset, they had posed a very, very good sign of our country becoming calm, and actually the two protagonists, that is the government side and also the opposition, in a way or the other, reaching a consensus on some of these particular issues that maybe have made them to be apart. Now, when we hear of stories and when we hear of information that these talks are going to collapse, these two groups are not going to continue, or maybe they might not reach an agreement, I think it poses a very, very negative scenario of maybe how things are going to be.
Right. And also, as we continue with a similar story, but on a political class, there is a pressure that is being mounted to the members of parliament who crisscross from Azimio to the Kenya Kwanza, who seem to be supporting the government in parliament. And the Azimio is mounting a very, very high stake of pressure to ensure these members of parliament go back to their polls in by-election because of violating the constitution. And what we are aware of is that constitution does not allow any member of a particular party, especially a member of parliament, to be able to show allegiance to a different party.
Sure.
So by doing so, you're calling for maybe resignation to go for a by-election, and you seek new mandate through the new party.
Yeah.
That is a new development that's coming, and Azimio is very much particulate on this matter, which I think has been tried there before.
Yes.
It is not the first time, Mangicho, where members of parliament are hopping from one party to the other after election. And I don't think we have seen voluntarily these members of parliament coming out to be able to be re-elected through the new allegiance parties.
Yeah, actually, it has been the bad manners of our political class.
Yes.
And I think this has really affected our politics, even in terms of maybe some of our elected leaders showing some of the principles they have, some of the philosophies they have. Because one thing about principles and philosophies is that maybe you're supposed to stand for the philosophy that you believe in, for the principles that you believe in, no matter whether you are popular, no matter whether you're not popular. But this issue of saying politicians from one time to another jumping from one political party to another political party, because these parties are different. There is something that maybe Jubilee stands for, there is something that maybe ODM stands for, there is something that maybe the other party stands for. So it should not just be a matter, even if there is a way that as elected leaders they're supposed to maybe to work, but I also don't believe that a politician elected on a particular party should just, after a particular time, jump and show allegiance to another party. And of course, Kagi, we know most of these who have actually shifted, or most of these who have actually shifted their allegiance, it's all because of the feeling of insecurity. They don't want maybe to be seen as if they are in the wrong side of the political divide. I believe if we would have maybe a scenario whereby we have changes, and now, today, it is the Azimio side that is in control or is in power. You will not be shocked to see all of these politicians again shifting to the other side. So it's basically very bad manners. And I I think I totally agree, and maybe this is something that needs actually to be escalated even in conversations across the quarters, that why should a member of parliament not honorably resign if they think that they no longer want maybe to continue with the party that they were elected in.
And that is low. But we need to desire, as Kenyans and even as a political class, to cultivate the culture of strengthening our political parties.
Right.
Yes, we have some good laws, and we have made some good strides towards the development of our political arena in the country, the democracy of political parties. You know, there's a time when we had one-party rule in this country, and there was a deliberate pressure to the government of that day to be able to allow to have a multi-partyism in our country. And one thing now we should be doing as a country is to help us to grow as a country in terms of political parties. Last Wednesday, when you were away, we talked about the issue of having some more parties in our country, and we were giving an example of two main political parties in a U.S. Political arena.
Okay.
And those two parties, that is Democrat
and the
Republican,
right.
Everybody in the world knows about this party. And you find that if you belong to the Republican, you subject yourself to ideologies of that party. And therefore, the manifestos of this party, especially in Western countries, where we can be able to learn a lot from them, is that if you want to belong to a party, you have to have that manifesto and the policy of that party. You read it, you understand it, and therefore you decide where do you want to subscribe yourself to. And therefore, when you join a party, you have decided whether it wins elections, whether it loses elections, you know where you belong. Even in Kenya, Mangicho,
right?
We desire to be there, whereby we have few strong parties where everybody understands the policy and manifesto of those parties, which don't keep on hip-hopping. You know, we remain strict to those policies. If I'm Kagi, I want to vie for an election. I go through those manifestos and I decide which one do I feel goes along with my desire as a politician I subscribe to. We have a long way to go, and we should be there by now.
That's very true, Kagi. And if you can actually even just look maybe at what we witnessed, I think maybe it was last week or the other week, whereby we also we saw the former president Uhuru Kenyatta in the wrangles, the wrangles involving the Jubilee Party. I think this was not something that is very interesting. This is not something that is very pleasing, especially maybe for a former head of state. But it all boils down to the way we conduct our affairs, to the way we operate our affairs, to the way we look into our parties. Because, like we've always said time and again, that it's like our politicians take the country and even the electorate for granted. They use these political parties just like vessels to make them rich in the elective places, or maybe even in the elective seats. And once maybe they are done there, they no longer maybe think anything about this particular party. So I think it is something that we really need to see some changes on. I think that is a story that we shall continue looking into, because actually it is also one of the things that maybe has made the opposition to actually want to have demonstrations, the issue to do with the finance bill. That is the subject that we are going to discuss today, our dear viewer. In a few minutes, we'll be having our guest, that is Joseph Irungu Gishoi. Is a political and also an economic expert. Joseph Irungu Gishoi is a political and also an economic expert. He will be here in a few minutes to help us look into this particular finance bill 2023. What are some of the pros? What are some of the cons? And if the cons are actually superseding the pros, then should the parliament actually bring down this particular bill? And I will also be able to find out what are some of the most Kenyans talking about, what are the issues that have been raised in this particular bill. And also our host Kagi has also prepared some graphics on this. We'll also be able to look into that. Our presenter, also our reporter Vincent Kimtai, also on the street. Later on, we'll also be joining him on the same. But just maybe also to look into some other issues that have been making headlines across this particular week. There is the issue of security in relation to the Mungiki gang, Kagi, and apparently the government had the the Deputy President, His Excellency Rigathi Gachagua, and also the Minister or the CS for Security, that is Professor Kithure Kindiki. They've been very adamant that they are not going to allow the resurrection of this particular gang.
Yes, it's something that was the least expected at this time, but we thank government because it has given its position on this matter. The issue of Mungiki is not new to our country. We know where we have come from and where we are today. And not even that, we have had many other gangs in the country, especially even in Nakuru County, where we had another gang which was sprouting and was a serious threat to the security of this region. So the issue of gangs trying to come up again at this time should not be allowed, because it is going to affect the operations of citizens. You know, when you know there is a security threat wherever you are, you either don't go to work, or when you go to work, you close your work early. Yeah. I was speaking to some young lady somewhere yesterday when there was a security lapse in their estate, and they told me that they could not sleep yesterday night because there were two gangs which were fighting over the night. Right. And even leaving home, coming to work was very, very difficult, because along the road there is fear and the police are all over. You know, you feel intimidated, but it's something that everybody should be on board as we cultivate the security of our nation. Exactly. Can you imagine, Mangicho, whereby there's some people who are there waiting for you to leave office or maybe to leave your business, and they are waiting to collect levy from you? It's not government. Yeah, it's very disheartening. Right? And even others are trying to take away your life, you know? It's very demoralizing. Yeah, it's very demoralizing, and Kagi, even as we talk about that, because I think that there is a way in which maybe the government actually even needs maybe to look into this thing. And like you've given an example, there were those incidents that are happening in Nakuru, and you hear of names of these particular gangs, and you are wondering, how are they formed without the knowledge? We have a whole NSIS in the country, intelligence. How is it that maybe a few people can just come up, they just organize, they just maybe work out the operation until maybe it becomes something that is very, very complex, okay, without the knowledge of the government, without the knowledge of the security personnel. So even as the government, even as the prominent leaders, even as the executive maybe gives the Kenyans the assurance, but I think it's very important also to change the strategy so that some of these illegal gangs can actually, of course there is no any illegal gang, but there is need for them to be actually dealt with even from the time they are conceived. Yeah, even the issue of Shakahola is a security issue. You know, any situation whereby the life of a citizen is under threat, whether it is through gang, whether it's through religious or maybe any other kind of setup, that is a security concern. That's why you see even in Shakahola, the security agents have taken over that region and that area, because it is a serious security lapse. So anyway, let's hope that security agents are going to up their game, as you were saying, to make sure that every citizen is being protected. There is another story, Kagi, that has made headlines, and this is from the county of Siaya. Yeah, in the county of Siaya. Now, apparently, the MCS there have voted to have the deputy governor, that is someone known as Oduol, to be actually impeached. Reason being that is actually obstructing the operation of the services in the counties. But apparently this deputy governor, what he has actually done is that he has raised issues with the nature and the kind of corruption activities taking place in the county of Siaya. Yes, and yesterday some members of Senate were raising some queries regarding the motive behind maybe impeachment of the deputy governor, and was even thrown out from the ODM party. And as you're saying, he acted as a whistleblower, and now he's becoming a victim of his actions, whereby the whole county assembly, minus one member, really voted for his exit from the office. Yeah. But the good thing with our constitution is that the actions by the county assembly is not the end of the road. Exactly. From here, we are expecting this matter to be on the table of the Speaker of the Senate, to be discussed by the senators, and they must interrogate deeply what transpired for this governor to be removed from the office. And we're expecting maybe a more lenient playing ground on the Senate as compared to the Kisumu County, whereby ODM dominates that region. And sometimes you can also feel there was a miss there, because this county assembly, they did not, as you're saying, interrogate his allegations regarding to the misappropriation of some funds. But they were quick to look for some ways to interrogate him for things that we even have never had before.
Sure.
He was being told he is sabotaging the government, is giving false information. You know, he also interfered with some procurement somewhere. But let's wait for the Senate to show its mercy.
Exactly, and what Kagi you said is very true, because actually that is what caught my attention, because I was like, now these members of the county assembly, and actually maybe this is actually even one of the roles. So it's to me it's like the deputy governor actually did the role of the MCAs, because the MCAs are actually the ones who are also supposed to give some oversight on how maybe the operations of the counties are actually taking place. But here they are, maybe they have had this particular information, the deputy governor has raised issue with matters corruption, then they just so there is a question of is a county assembly of CI maybe trying to hide something? Are they maybe colluding with maybe the executive in that particular county? Because in one of the TV channels, I was actually able to follow the interview whereby this particular deputy governor was, and the way he was talking, the way he was giving the information, and actually maybe what is actually troubling that particular county, you'd actually see that there is need, maybe even for the EACC to come in, because he was talking about some money that is actually just being withdrawn, but you cannot follow to actually find out how this particular money has been used. You just told that 100 million shillings has actually been withdrawn, but when you want to follow on what particular, and actually the money that he was talking about is a money that we can actually call, it's called, I think, the miscellaneous. See? The money that maybe it has not yet been maybe identified, or it has not yet been prioritized, or maybe allocated that it will be used for a particular activity. So I think that is something that really needs to be looked at.
And finally, on this matter, one thing I'm foreseeing and also looking forward to was asking myself, in case the Senate rescues the deputy governor from the teeth of the MCAs, what is going to happen to him in his daily operations as the deputy?
That's a very good question, because again now it basically seems there will be bad working relationship.
Yeah, he has a lot of ground with MCAs already and with the governor.
Already there will be no the goodwill, because to the governors, or maybe actually or maybe to the county assembly, to the members of the county assembly, it is like maybe this individual is the one maybe who is obstructing us, maybe to us achieving or to us actually realizing our goals. But I think that is something that is not right. And I think what even maybe the media should do, and even other stakeholders should do, is to follow up, so that if we are now told, if you completely are aware that the deputy governor was on the right course, he was determined to expose maybe the rot that is taking place in the county. Now, even the electorate in that particular county can be able to know, among those leaders that they elected, who is actually striving to ensure that their issues are looked into, their welfare is looked into, and who is actually condoning some of the vices like graft or corruption.
And just to mention something small, Mangicho, he is not the first governor to experience, that is Kisumu governor, to experience the problem with the deputy governor. There are quite several.
Okay. Yeah, that is very, very important. So I think that is one of the stories that maybe we'll be following up on, so that we can be able to find maybe what is it that is actually going to happen, because we know when you're talking about the counties, they are very, very important when it comes to matters devolution actually being looked into, and I think this is something that will be very, very important for us to look into. Now, the other story that I've also seen maybe from the Senate is a story about now the Senate wants the government to employ teachers on contract.
Yeah.
They're actually saying that we still have a very, very big shortage. And remember, we've already started, of course, the CBC curriculum is in place. We're having now the junior secondary, so these numbers are still becoming more and more. But the teachers that we are having for this particular assignment, it seems they are very, very few. And now this one puts our children and our pupils in a very, very precarious situation, because the ratio maybe of the teacher to the pupil is not really going to to actually be in a position to help most of our pupils. Yeah.
And one of the reasons why maybe the government is proposing for the employment through contract, they are saying is to be able to increase the number of teachers, because we are having shortage of teachers in our institutions, and this is one of the ways to be able to up the number for the sake of the ratio between a teacher and a student. Mm-hmm. But the teachers' unions in primary and high school, they have been very adamant in terms of contract, because somehow they're not sure about how these contracts are going to be implemented. Mm-hmm. And they feel they are not comfortable with the contracts.
Exactly.
But the NAT has been so much silent for, I think, for 1 year. Mm-hmm. We are not hearing more about NAT.
Sure.
Even the issue of the tax.
Yes.
They are very, very silent.
So like those who are in charge, they are not as vocal as Wilson Sossion.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that is some of the stories that have been making headlines. But right now, to our major area of discussion today, we're talking about the finance bill, the year 2023. And we are actually asking you this particular question. Do you think Parliament should pass Finance Bill 2023? Do you think Parliament should pass Finance Bill 2023? What is your take? What kind of information do you have? Do you think it will be of benefit to Kenyans? Do you think maybe it will be a major burden to Kenyans? You can share your views. You can share your feelings with us. Catch us live on our Facebook page, that is MBCI TV, and also on our YouTube page, that is MBCI TV Official. You can also give us a short SMS on our shortcut platform, that is 23814. And as we continue with our discussion, of course, we'll be glad to also look into some of the opinions that you have. But at this particular juncture, I think we can welcome our guests who will help us also look at this particular matter. Actually, my director is telling me we can take a short break. Then when we come back, we shall introduce our guest. That is Joseph Irungu Gisho. He's a political and also an economic expert who will be here to also tell us what he thinks about this Finance Bill 2023. Let us have that particular rhythm. In a short while, we'll be having it. And then I think we'll be able to look into that particular matter. And as I had also promised you, I think Kagi will also will present to us a short slide on maybe the issues or the main things that this particular finance bill has. Let us have that particular break, then we'll be coming back into the nitty-gritties of our discussion today.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Kenya, oh Kenya. The National Prayer Committee cordially invites you to a week of prayer starting from the 29th May to 2nd of June 2023, which will be held at the Nakuru Athletics Grounds from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily. The theme of the prayer week will be releasing the waves of revival. This is where we will be praying for the spiritual well-being of our nation. The event will be live on all our social media platforms and the National Prayer 2023 Facebook page. Let us come together and ask the Lord for forgiveness, guidance, and blessings for our nation. This is an interdenominational meeting, free and open to all.
Ukitoka kwa milioni unaenda kwa bilioni, halafu
zilioni,
kwa
milioni, kwa bilioni, kwa trilioni, kisha zinaisha.
Ukitoka kwa milioni unaenda bilioni, ukitoka bilioni trilioni, ukitoka trilioni zilioni, ukitoka hapo unarudi zilioni. Msemaji wa serikali ya Kenya anaitwa nani?
Wetangula.
What?
Wetangula.
Nani ambaye alivumbua Facebook?
Mark Zuckerberg. Mark Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg.
Wachungaji waleleli. Watataka gani? Watawatu ikaweta wake.
It's not finished.
This Thursday we are at Astorian Gardens in Eldoret and we'll be taking you through on how you can prepare your nyama choma.
Chumvi inasaidia kutoa hiyo maji. Kutoa ile maji ya nyama. So ukiweka hivi itakausha haraka.
Okay.
Nitaweka marination.
Na mtu anaweza nini tukiendelea tu.
Unaweza
tusikie hiyo taste
Taste. Ikiwa hivi ni tamu. Lakini nataka nifanye tamu zaidi.
Ni kuongeza ile
mambo yangu sasa. Sasa nitairudia kwa kweli. Nifanye ikuwa moto.
Na ulisema kachumbari ni kitunguu
na nyanya. Dania. Kachumvi kidogo. Pilipili nitakuwekea kando.
Stay tuned this Thursday from 7:30 to 8 p.m. with me, Perpetual Nyambura.
MBCI Television, transforming lives.
Yes, you're welcome back to the mid-morning pack, and we are glad that you're still having us. We are looking at the Finance Bill 2023. It's actually the subject of discussion. It has actually even elicited mixed reactions across the counties and across the country as well. Different people have taken different positions as regards to this particular bill. But then we want to find out what exactly is in this particular bill. How beneficial is it going to be to Kenyans? So many people have already said that this bill is really going to be a major burden to the country, and also maybe even actually to Kenyans who are maybe in the middle class or even actually down there. But we want to find out what is it that needs to be done, because maybe in a few days this particular bill will be presented to Parliament, and should Parliament pass it, or maybe should they shelve it at the moment and maybe consider some amendments to this particular bill? Thank you so much for having us. We've already posed to you that particular question. Continue giving us your feedback, and we'll be glad as we continue with our discussion to actually also look into your opinions on the same. As I had promised at this particular juncture, Kagi, we have our guest today, that is Bwana Joseph Irungu Gishoi. He's a political and economic expert to help us in this particular discussion. Karibu sana, good to have you today.
Good to have you too also. Yes. I appreciate for you to invite me here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we're also glad that you found time to be with us. Maybe if we could just begin, for you, do you think this is the bill that will change this country for better?
No. Bwana Mangicho, this bill, as much as it looks good, but it is coming at the wrong time. Yeah, because as we all know, the country is reeling from the worst drought ever in 40 years in this country. We are also coming from a heated election. We are also coming from post-COVID time. We know that all businesses were affected during the years of COVID. So I want to say that as much as this bill would have helped this country, however, it's coming at the wrong time. So I would wish, and I would want to advise our Parliament to not to accept the bill, not to pass it into law. Yeah.
Not to pass it into law. Yeah. They should first of all amend it. And maybe Bwana Irungu, maybe according to you, because it's like now the government side is very, very adamant to pass this particular bill. I know we'll be looking into maybe the nitty-gritties of the bill, and also we have a slide that my co-host Kagi has also presented. Yes. But then what would happen if Parliament passed it? And we know Parliament has the majority because this is actually coming from the executive. And we also know that Parliament has the majority of the members of Parliament are aligned with the executive. And the government is actually determined that this particular bill passes. So what would be the consequences? Because we know choices have consequences.
Mr. Mangicho, as choices have consequences. And if the Parliament ignores the wills of the people, because for the last time I checked, the Finance Committee of Parliament had received 1,400 memoranda from different organizations in this country. And 90% of all the memoranda were saying that the bill is coming at the wrong time, so they should shelve the bill until such a time that the country is on the trajectory of recovering. So if Parliament goes ahead and buries their head in the sand, because they can do that, we know they have that habit of ignoring. And also I want to say, if maybe everybody is undermined in this country, we have seen all organizations, plus even the people in this country, they are all saying that the bill is coming at the wrong time. So if they pass this bill, blatantly, because they can do that, I know, and then I'm sure majority of this of the electorate of this country will be very angry. Number two, many manufacturers and business people are going to shift their businesses into other countries. Yeah, we all know that if investors come to a country and see the tax regime is draconian, they see the tax regime is overburdening them with taxes, then they are free to shift their manufacturing companies into other countries. There are other countries like Rwanda, Burundi, there is Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia. They can easily take their business there. Like if I can jog your mind, Bwana Kagi, last time, like 2 years ago, one of the richest men in Africa, Aliko Dangote, I'm sure you know him, from Nigeria, he came here to invest in Kenya, and he met hostile conditions. He took his investment somewhere else. He wanted to, was not conducive. Yeah, he wanted to invest 500 billion in this country.
Bill Gates also?
Bill Gates also came to this country. So I'm saying, if the parliament that we have elected, and you know parliamentarians are representatives of the electorate of this country, because we cannot fit all of us. 50 million people cannot fit in the parliament. That's why we elect 290 members of parliament to go and represent us in parliament. Okay. And then also we elect 47 senators to go and represent us in the Senate. And I'm sure all members of parliament and members of the Senate are listening on the ground, isn't it?
Yeah.
They are listening to the electorate, and every morning at this time, they are all complaining that this bill is not good, this bill is unconstitutional. Right. You cannot force us to acquire houses that some people have houses. Even if they are mud houses, they are still houses, isn't it? So you cannot force you cannot force us to acquire houses by force, because I believe if the government is genuine on this issue, they should be telling us whoever wants to invest in this housing scheme is free to do so. If you are not, if you don't want, you can shelve your ambition of investing until such a time that you want to invest in the housing scheme. So I think that bill, it will have a lot of consequences, even by 2027, because 2027 is fast approaching. You know, 5 years is very little.
we are closing to now 1 year after election.
Yeah, after election. Yeah. So 4 years is a very little time. And I'm sure we don't, the president does not want to be a one-term president since this country got independence. But as far as the things are going, and I want him to hear if he listens, he can become the one-term president if he's not careful.
That is quite debatable because there are those who would argue, Bwana Irungu, that Kenyans are unpredictable, that they might feel very angry now, but when we come towards the election and maybe the government brings goodies, they'll have forgotten all the bad things that happened in the last 4 years and maybe again re-elect them. But anyway, I know that is something that is quite debatable. Maybe before we continue crunching these particular issues in the budget, or actually maybe in the finance bill, we could give Kagi this opportunity to take us through a slide on this particular Finance Bill 2023 so that we can be able to find out what is it that is happening or what is it that is actually in this particular bill. Kagi, maybe you can take it away for us, then we'll be back with more of this analysis.
Yeah, thank you so very much, my colleague Mangicho, and dear viewer. I want to take you through a little bit of what is happening with the Finance Bill 2023. I have a short analysis of what we are waiting for, and therefore I'm going to give you a summary of what is happening in the Finance Bill 2023. And number one, the 2023 Finance Bill seeks to amend various laws relating to taxes and duties with the goal of increasing government revenues from taxes collected. One of the reasons why we need this finance bill, according to the government, number one is to expand the tax base. To expand the tax base for the country because the government feels it doesn't have enough money to run its activities. Number one, it wants to target to grow the economy, and number two, it wants to help to ease the cost of living. And one of the proposals in the finance bill is what we call the introduction of the income tax. And this income tax, the bill proposes to increase the gross sales tax from 1% to 3% by lowering the entry point for over businesses with the turnover of $500,000 annually from $1 million. This means that if you have a business that you're making around 1 million shillings per month or maybe per year, you're supposed to pay a certain amount of tax. But by the current finance bill, this has been lowered to 500,000 shillings per month. So if the gross amount you are making for 1 month is $500,000, there is a consequence tax that you're supposed to pay. And this is what we're calling the income tax. Then we go to the second one, that is the digital asset tax. Here, the government proposes to introduce a digital asset tax, a 3% levy on the transfer charges applied during the exchange of the assets to cover other many issues, the digital currencies and non-fungible tokens. If you are working on a digital platform and you want to, maybe you have some assets, you want to transfer them from here to there, you have to pay some taxes as compared to there before, that you can be able to transfer any assets in any digital platform without any levy. And this levy, again, attracts what we are calling the next bill, which is called the digital content creators. We are aware that currently many youths are producing their content online, and here 15% of payments made to digital content creators will be withheld, or we call in the finance term the withholding tax. Here the taxpayers making the payments being required to withhold the tax. And we know there are many people in the country, especially the young people, because of lack of employment, they have moved to digital platform whereby they are making a lot of money in digital content. And this is the biggest target of the government because it has attracted a huge revenue. And when you take your money to the bank, before your money is being released, 15% of that money, of the gross income, is going to be taken by the government in what they call the withholding tax. This one gives us to the next one, which is the housing levy reductions, which has really brought a lot of heat debate in the country. And by the way, there are many people who are thinking this is only the tax that we have, but it has drew a lot of attention from the public. On the 3% housing levy reductions, the bill proposes to introduce a new statutory deductions into the National Housing Development Fund at 3% of gross earnings. Just to explain, if you are a civil servant and you have your payslip, the government is targeting to take 3% of your gross salary to this, the housing levy fund. As it takes your money, 3%, the same twin amount is being taken by the government and is being brought into your account. What the government is now explaining is not a tax, is what they are calling a saving. And this is where the government is planning to build for you a house, right? It's one of the bills that really attracted a lot of attention. Then we go to the next one, which is the VAT. Now, every product is being paid VAT, and that is where if you are not employed, you pay VAT indirectly. Here, the government is planning to tax the petroleum products. That means the bill has proposed that VAT on petroleum products be applied at 16% from the current rate of 8%. The proposal is expected to have the profound effect on the cost of petroleum products in the country and would likely push up the prices above the current historical highs. Now, when the government wants to increase the levy of petroleum products from 8%, the current tax, to 16%, that means any product that requires any petroleum product is automatically going to rise. Be it maybe you are using cooking gas, you're using fuel in your vehicle, you are using fuel to produce some things like food, sugar, unga, all those things, automatically going to rise because they rely on the petroleum product, even electricity. Because if you look at your monthly bill of the electricity, you'll notice they have something called the fuel levy. So if they're going to move from 8% to 16%, there is high probability the electricity is going to rise. Then you go to the next one, that is excise duty. Timely excise duty payments. The bill seeks to empower KRA to obligate certain firms in certain industries to pay excise duty. Players in the gaming industry are, for instance, required to remit excise duty within 24 hours. Here, there are some organizations, institutions, or businesses which are required that once you get money from the customers, you have to submit your tax in the next 24 hours. Not even the gaming institutions or businesses, but also, it's being said, even those guys who have some rental or something, you have to remit your tax after 24 hours. The next one is the Tax Appeals Tribunal. Taxpayers will be required to deposit 20% of the tax in dispute at KRA or equivalent security before disputing a decision of the Tax Appeals Tribunal at the High Court. Now, if you have a dispute between you and KRA, before the dispute is being sorted out, you have to deposit 20% of the money you are disputing for, maybe as a security of your dispute. And maybe after you lose the case, you pay the money. If you don't lose the case, then you refund your money. But before you sort out your dispute between KRA, you'll be forced to be able to pay 20%. Yeah, I think the last one is Tax Protection Act. The KRA will no longer grant relief because of doubt or difficulty in recovery of tax on the part of KRA. The proposal, if passed, is expected to lead to an even more aggressive tax authority, implying more running battles between the taxman and taxpayers in arrears. Sometimes in the current situation with KRA, you can be able to appeal to KRA because of some reasons. The KRA is saying that you owe them some money. They're saying now you have some money for us. You can be given a relief, or maybe your tax can be moved away after maybe a tribunal. But the current situation is like it doesn't want to have a way whereby you can be relieved of your tax because of some reasons, right? And maybe the last one is Miscellaneous Fee for Levies Act. Import declaration fee. The bill has proposed the import declarations fee from 3.5 to 2.5%. The more is deemed as a way for local manufacturers by reducing the cost of inputs imported to the country. This bill has one advantage, that it is going to provide what they call the exemption of the exported services from the VAT. There's a reduction, I think, of 5%. If you are exporting any service from the country to other countries, your VAT has been reduced. End of the summary.
Oh, that is quite explicit. Their exposition by Paul Kagi on this particular finance bill 2023. Thank you so much, Kagi, for that kind of highlight. At least now we've got to know what is actually inside this particular finance bill 2023. Very quickly, our guest here, Bwana Joseph Irungu, Kagi has talked about, and I know maybe these particular two issues, if you could start with the housing level deduction, and this is something that maybe has attracted a lot of backlash from Kenyans, but the government has actually come out to strongly say that this is not tax, this is just your savings, and maybe after a particular period of time, 7 years, if you don't have anything to do with the house, your money will be refunded. Why are Kenyans still angry with this proposal?
Mr. Mangicho, the last time I was checking, I was doing some calculations. Like maybe if you are a teacher, you are earning like 30,000 and you are being cut, your salary is being reduced, like, I mean, they are deducting 3%. I was checking, annually you'll be, the government will be deducting around 18,000 shillings every year or annually. And maybe for you to buy, to purchase a house that is 1.5 million, maybe you'll need like 80 years in order to clear that payment. So I wonder if you are, right now you are like 40 years.
So does it mean that the beneficiaries are supposed to maybe to get into the houses once they complete the payment? Or is it that maybe they will continue to be paying for the money even as they reside in those houses that they've been built for by the government?
As much as maybe you'll be residing in that house, but after staying in that house for like 50 years, and then maybe you have retired, and maybe the beneficiaries maybe don't have money to be paying for the remainder of the amount. I think there is a trick there. It is tricky because you might, according to your salary, you might take a lot of years to clear that money. Okay. So that's where I think there is a problem. Also, I'm thinking, what about if the current president who has the project does not return in that seat in the year 2027? What will happen to that money you have already contributed? So you see, maybe there will come...
Because that is a project of the current government.
That is a project of the current...
Not necessarily the next government that we're going to...
Yeah, the next... Maybe if Raila comes in 2027, he will maybe discard the project.
The program.
Yeah, so if he refuses to continue with the program, what comes of the...
So are you saying this is absolutely unpracticable?
According to me, I don't think it's practicable. I don't think it's practical. According to me, I don't think...
But they have already, the government has already set up very good blocks in the current budget of the affordable housing. So they have done their own research, and they feel they can be able to work. Already they have some blocks in the country. Why should this one fail?
What I know and what I want to remind you, lest maybe you have forgotten. The issue of affordable housing has not started with the current government of Kenya Kwanza. It was started by President Mwai Kibaki, who is now the late. And after some time, it did not go through. Then when Uhuru Kenyatta came into power...
It's actually one of the 4 agendas.
Yeah.
Affordable housing.
Has it borne fruit in the 10 years?
No.
My answer is like yours, no.
And they are saying the cause was the handshake.
Yeah. Now, that's why I'm saying, as much as this... that program of affordable housing is good, because what I know is that every year, Mr. Kagi, 500,000 students from Form 4 get into towns from the rural areas. Some of them come into universities, some in colleges, TVET institutions, and some to seek for jobs. So there is that shortfall of housing. Actually, the last time I checked from the Kenya Bureau of Statistics, they were saying there is a shortfall of 250,000 houses every year. That is to mean, in Kenya, there is a need for 500,000 houses. And the current people who are making houses can only give 250,000 houses every year. So there is a shortfall.
250 houses?
Yeah.
That is 250,000
houses every year. We have a shortfall. We cannot accommodate. We can only accommodate into towns 250,000 people annually, every year. And you see they are coming out from college, from the Form 4, they are coming 500,000. So there is a shortfall. That is to mean we cannot be able to give them houses, all of them. So the idea is good. However, this time, we like I've said, the country is doing poorly economically. So if you start deducting people, like now, the employers, the people who have employed people, they cannot be able, once they deduct 3% from the employees, the government expects the employer also to remit 3%. Okay. How many institutions will agree to that? We also them in television saying we can't be able.
But if it passed in parliament, it goes through, it becomes now a law, they have no choice.
They have no choice. That's why I said they can shift from this country to Rwanda, Burundi. If the tax regime becomes draconian and heavy, people can shift their companies.
And there was also the other fear, Kagi and our guest, Bwana Irungu, that maybe even most of these employers, if they feel that now they've become so much burdened, there is the likelihood that maybe even some of the employees will be laid off.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, because maybe the employer will say, or the company will say that maybe because of this other costs that the government is now compelling us actually to incur, the other alternative is for us now to see how is it that we are going now to manage ourselves.
And laying off, those layoffs will come very costly for this country. We are staring like 5 million Kenya youths don't have jobs. And the ones now who are employed, if they start being laying off some employees.
But remember the government, and that is the other narrative, Kagi, that has actually even begun to catch the attention of so many Kenyans, that now the narrative is between the employed, the working class, and those who are jobless. And it's like now the jobless want to be made to believe that those who are employed are the ones who are making their lives not to be good because they don't want to chip in.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard that.
So there will be an economic...
people are now saying that the narrative has now shifted between the dynasty versus the hustlers.
The haves and the have-nots.
Yeah, yes. Out to those who are employed
and unemployed.
Yeah, because you see...
Because the argument is that those who are not employed, if this particular housing levy begins to be implemented, then you'll have a lot of youth being involved in maybe the construction of some of these units.
Maybe to add on that is that once the houses are being constructed, we will see masons getting jobs. There are people making doors, steel doors and the windows, isn't it? There are the women selling uji and porridge, chapati. So there will be employment as per se. However, now so that the people who are now jobless can also see it as a narrative that once the bill is passed, we will get jobs. But you see now, once the bill is passed, the employers are also saying we are going to lay off some people. Okay. They were saying they will be laying off like 100,000. That's what the last time I checked from the media, from the Kenya Manufacturer Association of Kenya. They were saying they are going to lay off roughly 100,000 people. You know, 100,000 people who are working and now they are jobless. Okay. Now that is also...
and they are defendants.
Yeah, they become... They have a lot of problems economically.
I was thinking about, because this bill is going to land in Parliament, and the members of Parliament are going to debate on every clause of this bill. Yes. And according to the operations of Parliament, there is going to be the amendments of the bill, or they are going to vote for the amendments. If today you're given a chance, where, particularly this one, the 3%, the housing levy, where do you feel that for the bill to become beneficial to Kenya and even the government, where can they do the amendments for us to be able to operationalize?
If you ask me, I think the bill has 90% of the content of the bill is poisonous and toxic, if you ask me. Because when it comes to the issue of adding 16% levy on petroleum, right now, I'm sure you have cars. You have seen that petrol is trading at 181 shillings.
Yes.
And now the levy is only 8% that was introduced by the fourth President Uhuru Kenyatta. Now if you increase another 8% to come at 16%, it means now petrol will come to almost 190 or 200 out there. And you see all production in this country is done through by fuel, isn't it? So immediately you increase the 16%, it means that the already high cost of living in this country we are experiencing right now. Bwana Mangicho, right now sugar is 220 shillings.
Yes.
So it means that the price of sugar, because of definitely when the cost of production increases, now the cost of sugar or cost of all the commodities in this country, sugar, unga, all the things that we consume in this country, it means they are going to go up. If it is cost of like maybe transport costs, it will go up. So you see, once you introduce the 16% levy on petroleum products, it means the cost of living will go high.
That is correct. Those facts are very good and they are very clear as we are expounding them. But why do you think the government, particularly the president, is so desperate to make this bill pass in parliament? Because these facts are bare to everybody. What makes him to be very aggressive in ensuring this bill passes in parliament? Why?
Yeah, from the economic point of view, because I'm an economist, I'll jog your mind, Mr. Kagi and Mr. Mangicho. When President Moi was in power, this country was collecting around 430 billion in taxes every year. When Kibaki came into power, he made the tax collection 3 times. He started collecting 1.2 trillion every year. The same government and the same people of this country. When Uhuru came, it increased to around 1.8 million. Now, if you can jog your mind, we are only collecting 14% tax from the country of Kenya. So if Ruto is looking at, he wants to collect between 30% to 50% taxes, because majority of people don't pay taxes. They hide in the tax before they pay tax. They either underpay tax or some don't pay.
Exactly. And maybe, Bwana Irungu, that is one of the points that we'll also look into, because I think one of the highlights that Kagi put was about, I think I saw the Tax Procedures Act, and maybe we'll be able to find out what is it that the government actually needs to do so that maybe it can tighten some of the loopholes that maybe we've witnessed, where some of those maybe who have actually been skipping or have actually been evading the paying of tax, how is it that they can be made to actually pay their taxes. But right now we can also get and interact with our reporter in the streets, that is Vincent Kimutai. We asked him to go to the street and also find the opinions of Kenyans about this particular bill and whether maybe they think the parliament should pass or actually maybe even shelve it. Our reporter Vincent Kimutai, kindly take us to the streets.
Shukran sana Mangicho Mola pamoja na Paul Kagi mkiwa upande wa pili wa studio. Na katika kuendeleza mjadala mnaojadili hapo studioni ni kwamba mswada wa kifedha wa mwaka 2023 umeendelea kuibua hisia mseto humu nchini, ambapo katika mswada huo kuna mapendekezo kadhaa ambao serikali yanapendekeza kuongezwa kwa ushuru ili kusaidia serikali kufanikisha miradi ya maendeleo humu nchini. Na pendekezo ambalo limeibua hisia mseto zaidi ni ule wa mkato wa 3% wa mishahara ya wafanyikazi wa umma, jambo ambalo lilipelekea wafanyikazi wa umma kote nchini kuandamana siku ya Jumatatu wakisema kwa iwapo mswada utaweza kupitishwa basi wataweza kuandamana kote nchini. Leo hapa hivi tutakuwa tukizungumza na Wakenya kuweza kufahamu je, maoni yao ni yapi kuhusiana na mpango wa serikali au mswada wa kifedha ambao serikali umeweza kutoa, imepitishwa katika kamati ya bajeti, imekusanya maoni. Sasa hivi inaelekezwa katika bunge la kitaifa. Tutakuwa tukifahamu maoni ya Wakenya kuhusiana na mswada huo mali hapa hivi.
Kwa majina mimi naitwa Victor.
Unaunga mkono mswada wa kifedha mwaka 2023 au unaipinga?
Hiyo napinga. Hiyo kitu haitatusaidia. Kitu ya kwanza, yeye anasema ati watu wakati pesa wajenge nyumba. Yeye asema alete kitu yenye amejua itatusaidia, si ati anatuambia ati kila mtu akate pesa ya kujenga nyumba. Na nyumba yenyewe ni za wadozi. Hiyo mswada hiyo yenye wanaleta kwa bunge, hata watu wa bunge waende waangushe, lakini wakipitisha wataenda kuishi kwa hizo nyumba. Hizo ni zao, si ati si yetu sisi wananchi wa chini. On the moment wamekatwa hiyo 3%. Mimi si mfanyakazi wa serikali ndio, lakini yule mtu tayari akikatwa pale kwa hivyo uchumi inaanza kupanda na huko juu. Hiyo bado mimi pia itani affect juu kama pale ndio penye napata na chakula tayari umemkata hiyo 3% pale. So kwa hivyo bado itani affect hata nikiwa hapa chini.
Sasa mimi wakati mumeleta mswada ya manyumba, sababu hata ukisema watu wakatwe 3%, hii 60% ya mafuta sasa ndio ngumu zaidi, kwa sababu hata inaniadhiri kwa njia hii. Sisi tunaponunua hiyo kwa 16% ama kwa hii saa hii inaitwa 8%, bado inatufinyilia, kwa sababu yule mteja ambaye tunayempepa hapa chini, hata ukimwambia kuongeza shilingi hata 20 kwa hiyo 50 ambayo tunasoea, hawezi, anatoka na anaenda kwa mguu. Sasa hata mimi napaki hapo tu ni kama tumekosana. Sasa kulingana na hiyo 60% itakuwa imenifinya sana, sina hata la kupumua na hata sijui nitafanya nini, kwa sababu nitaadhirika. Kwa sababu huyo mtu anapokatwa hiyo 3%, sasa hata yeye hapo juu amenyongwa. Sasa mimi sitapata hiyo nini, ile kibarua ambayo huyo mtu wa 3% angeniletea, nitaniadhiri.
Okay, kwa majina naitwa Bernard Nyakundi. Mimi ni mfanyabiashara katika hii chimbo la Nakuru. Kuna hii mambo ya mswada ambao umetokea ya kwamba mfanyabiashara akatwe 3%. Mimi kwa upande wangu binafsi sioni kama hiyo kitu ni mzuri. Sababu maisha sasa hizi imekuwa ngumu. Na zaidi ya yote tunapata ya kwamba mtu sasa hizi uko na watoto unalipia school fees, maybe kuna ndugu yako kama dada yako ana uwezo pia unamsaidia. Alafu tena waambiwe ukatwe mshahara yako ili tena uende kujengewa nyumba. Kwani watu wamesema ya kwamba hatuna nyumba? Watu wako na nyumba wanaishi. Namba 2, penye tumetoka tuko na manyumba. So sioni acha ya kuambia mtu tena eti akatwe 3%. Hiyo nayo ni ngumu sana. Okay, upande wa mafuta pia nayo sasa naona sisi wenye alikuwa anasema ya kwamba rais wetu ya kwamba wakati alikuwa anauliza kura alikuwa anasema ya kwamba sisi asila wadogo ndio anataka tuinue. Lakini sioni hiyo kitu yenye alikuwa anasema kama ni ukweli. Sababu sasa kama akiongeza mafuta inamaanisha ya kwamba nikienda kununua vitu zangu nitaenda kununua kwa bei ya juu ambayo itaniumiza mimi kama mfanyabiashara. Naomba kabisa wabunge wetu tafadhali penye walipo wakisikia hii maneno tafadhali waangushe waangushe mara moja.
Kulingana na hii maneno ya tax like house taxing, tulikuwa tunaona Ruto awachane na hii maneno ya tax. Kwa sababu hakuna venye mtu mwingine atakuwa ameandikwa kazi analipia mwingine atinjariwe nyumba. Unaona? Utaona a lot of people watakuwa lazy because wanajua wataundua nini? Nyumba. So tulikuwa tunasema maneno ya tax Ruto awache kabisa.
Mi kwa majina naitwa Omar Eric. Concerning the housing bill, me now oppose. Criteria they are using, like now let's say somebody is retiring, has remained with only 5 years, is already 50 years. And you are telling that person is going to benefit from that housing project after maybe 25 years coming. And we know the life expectancy of a person is 70 years. Is that really logical? So I say a big no. Our economy is staggering. And we expect the Minister for Trade to wake up and try to look for a market so that we sell our goods and we improve in our dollar. And now all of a sudden we are told that soon there is they're going to increase the fuel costs from 8% to 16%. You know, our economy is very fragile. And this is one way of sending away the investors. Simply because, you know, investors, they prefer working in an environment which is friendly to their businesses. But the moment you hike the fuel cost, you make even electricity goes up because they use fuel to generate electricity. And at the moment we go that direction, we end up losing the investors, and we create more unemployed community, which ends up creating crime nation.
Kwa majina ni Charles Jomo. Mimi ni mfanyikazi hapa stage. Okay, kwa proposal hii amendment bill ya serikali. Okay, iko mahali pengine iko 50-50. Kwa sababu hatuwezi criticize pande ni mbaya, pande ni mbaya. Sisi kama wananchi, sisi hakuna penye tuko kwa payroll. Sisi hatuko kwa payroll ya mtu. Sisi wenyewe tunasoliaga yenye tunapata kidogo ndio tunajipanga lakini wale wenye wako pale wanalipo mshahara na serikali wa contribute kutoa hiyo, kwa sababu hiyo pesa inakuja kusaidia mwananchi ambaye yeye ana uwezo wa kutengeneza ile nyumba. Sasa kama mimi nitaongea pande ya mafuta, unaona, ndaongea kwa hii nini ya tax ya mafuta hiyo ya 16%. Hii 16% kama serikali inaweza acha pale kwa 80%, hapo ni sawa, unaona, lakini isiweke kama sheria ati inaweza panda ama iharibu. Umenipata? So kwa sisi wenyewe kama wananchi, serikali tulichagua, serikali iliingia, tuache serikali ifanye kazi na watu walipe tax.
Majina yangu kamili naitwa Violet Chepto. Mimi kulingana na hiyo mambo ya 10% kutoka huku kwenda huku, sijaona kama iko sawa. Wangewauliza watu wenye wanafanya kazi kwa serikali kwanza, wenyewe watoe maoni ama kama watakubaliana nayo sawa. Na hii maneno ya kujengewa nyumba na kukatwa 3%, wangeuliza wenye wanataka hizo manyumba, kwa sababu hata hizo pesa zikikatwa huku na ziwekwe huku, still bado huyo mtu wa chini hiyo nyumba haiwezi mfikia. Itabaki tu bado kwa hao mabwenyenye.
Mimi napinga hiyo mswada cause mimi mtu wa chini hiyo nyumba mimi naona kama Mr. Ipata itapatikana hao watu mabwenyenye wa huko juu. Wito wangu wa serikali ni kuwa mwenye anataka kujengewa nyumba wasilazimishe kila mtu. Mwenye anataka aseme anataka, mwenye hataki asilazimishwe.
Kwa majina naitwa Timothy Kamla Kanyinya. Sasa hii mambo ya manyumba ni safi ndio, lakini Wakenya wetu sio watu wa kupelekewa maendeleo kwanza kama hawajajaliwa mambo na biashara yao. Wangeulizwa kwanza, wenyewe wakubali ndio wapelekwe huko. Saizi kuna mambo mengi yanatusumbua. Mshahara ni ile ya miaka nenda rudi. Mambo imeletwa makubwa. Hata kama ni sisi wenye hatuna kazi, wale ambao wanafanya kazi hawezi kubali kwa sababu mshahara yaongesekagi. Ni vitu mingi naweka tu kwa hiyo mshahara tangu siku ile wazee wa zamani mpaka leo hii hakuna kitu inaongezwa, lakini vitu inapanda usiku na mchana. Vitu mingi nakatwa ndani ya mshahara. Sasa ukirudi uangalie tena mambo ya nyumba, tunashindwa inakatwa namna gani? Hao watu wangeongeleshwa kwanza, waonyeshwe biashara ile wanaweza fanya ili mapato iwe juu ama mshahara iongezwe iwe juu ndio waweza kuulizwa mambo na manyumba. Lakini sasa hii shule inasumbua, matibabu inasumbua, maisha inatusumbua. Kweli kabisa, hata kama ni wewe, ni wapi utaenda kwa mambo ya kujenga nyumba kwanza? Mtu ukitaka kufanya maendeleo, unashiba kwanza ama unaenda kujenga kwanza? Si lazima ushibe ndio uweze kujua maendeleo baadaye. Lakini kama uko nje hata ukiulizwa, huwezi ongea chochote kwa sababu hiyo maendeleo yenye unataka kwenda kufanya nyumba, hutameza hiyo nyumba hiyo. So serikali yetu waache kuamua tu kitu bora wanaamua. Tena wabunge wetu wamekuwa watu wa kuitika tu kila kitu. Hata wakiulizwa Wakenya wauawe, wanaitika sasa tunatoka wapi tunaenda wapi? Na mambo ilifikisha huko kwa bunge, haiwachui president peke yake. Wanakaisha chini sababu bunge hiyo ndio wananchi. Inatetea wananchi vizuri, wanaweka kwa njia ile inatakikana, ndio sasa baadaye wanaanza kuambiwa tunatakana tujenge hii na hii na hii, watakubali. Lakini sasa hii maisha imesukuma watu, hawana mbele hawana nyuma, na tunaambiwa manyumba. Nyumba hiyo ukienda retire ama ukikufa, utawachia watoto yako ama utawachia nani? Hiyo mambo ya manyumba kwanza iweko kando, watu waonyeshwe biashara na watu waongezwe mishahara na watu waangalie mambo yao ya chakula na maendeleo hii nyingine, ndio tuweze kuenda mbele. Sababu watu wamezoea kuishi mashamba penye wanafuga ng'ombe, wanafuga mbuzi, wanakunywa maziwa na mambo mzuri ya cash crop inapatikana. Nairobi itatusaidia nini? Watu tukikufa, watoto wetu watapewa hiyo urithi ama inaenda namna gani hapo? Hiyo mambo si mzuri. Wauliza wengine, hata kama hatuna kazi, hatutaki mishahara yenye tunakatwa ya wenyewe wanabaki wakilia. Tupatiwe mambo ile wenyewe watatupatia wakiwa wanacheka harusi.
Mangicho Mola pamoja na Paul Kagi, hayo ni maoni ya Wakenya kuhusiana na bajeti mswada wa kifedha wa mwaka 2023. Hata hivyo, kamati ya bajeti na mipango imekamilisha kukusanya maoni ya Wakenya kuhusiana na mswada huo, ambapo mswada huo utaelekea kwenye bunge la kitaifa, wabunge wakitarajiwa kuweza kuzungumzia kisha kupitisha kufanyia marekebisho au kupitisha bila kufanyia marekebisho. Hata hivyo, wadau mbalimbali wameweza kutoa mapendekezo yao kitaka wabunge kuweza kuangusha mswada huo au kuifanyia marekebisho, kwa kuwa iwapo itapitishwa jinsi ilivyo itawasababishia Wakenya matatizo chungu nzima. Siku ya Jumatatu, vyama vya wafanyikazi mbalimbali waliweza kuandamana wakisema kuwa iwapo bunge itaweza kupitisha mswada huo jinsi ilivyo, basi wao wataweza kuandamana kuandaa mgomo mkubwa wa kitaifa. Kinachosubiriwa ni ikiwa bunge itaweza kupitisha mswada huo jinsi ilivyo, hawakuweza kuifanyia marekebisho. Nikiripotia kipindi cha Mid Morning Park, jina langu ni Vincent Kimutai.
Yeah, that is our reporter there, Vincent Kimutai, in the streets and also getting the opinions and the views of Kenyans as far as this particular subject or topic or discussion is concerned. And one of the things that is coming out very clearly, Kagi, and also our guest here, Bwana Irungu, is that Kenyans are actually informed from the vox pops that our reporter has done. It's clearly very, it's very clear that Kenyans know what is actually happening in the country, and this thing is really not pleasing them.
Correct. I think is a good gesture whereby today's Kenyan is more enlightened than before.
Sure.
And maybe after some 10, 20 years, our politicians will have a difficult time to be able to convince Kenyans to do something as compared to there before, because of the enlightenment they are having day by day.
Of course, and that is actually one of the things that we've actually been advising and also recommending, that it is important for you as a voter, for you as a citizen, to be actually part and parcel of the running of the government. And sometimes we've actually been told that we are the government, okay? So there is maybe the feeling that maybe the government is actually the ones who are actually leading. But remember, you as a voter, you as a citizen, you're the one who has actually put those in leadership in that particular position. Coming back to you, Bwana Irungu, even maybe as you chip in into your response in relation maybe to what Kenyans are saying, but the government is now maybe finding itself in a very, or maybe what we can call a tough balancing act. And maybe from the word go, the Kenya Kwanza government, we know that it had the resolution. It had what we can actually maybe say the plan. And maybe also one of the things that it was very sure it wanted to do is to avoid what you can actually call the burden of borrowing.
It's called over-reliance of external external funds.
Exactly.
Which are very expensive
Which
also.
are very expensive. And now, with this particular situation, therefore, maybe one would want to ask, what other options did this particular government have, maybe in terms of collecting revenue to ensure that maybe it does the services and it gives the wananchi the services that they need?
Mangicho, what I want to say and what I want to reiterate in this show is that the President William Ruto, as much as I understand economics, is that he has a good intention of collecting taxes and making sure that this country, like right now, we all know that Kenya has 9.2 trillion in external borrowing, which is very high for this country, isn't it? And what I know is that the current regime of President William Ruto wants to reduce that of excessive borrowing.
Sure.
Yeah, like when we were with Kibaki, the last time we had President Kibaki, our borrowing was around 2 or 3 trillion. But right now we have 9 trillion, which is far away, far much. It has gone too much. What I know is that the president wants to stop over-reliance of those debts. However, the measures that he's introducing to collect taxes are the ones that are not welcome, and I'm sure they will face the full wrath of the Kenyans. Because when you overtax people, instead of them enjoying the benefits of the tax, they are actually going to feel the pinch of the taxes. Like the people who, manufacturers of this country, they want to manufacture goods and make a profit, isn't it? But when I see that I'm manufacturing goods and I'm making very mega profits, then I can choose to invest somewhere else. So I think...
So when Irungu, personally, you support the government's move to reduce the amount of borrowing externally?
Yes, I would support that because we don't want to be involved in excessive borrowing. However, the issue of adding more taxes is not welcome in this country. And nobody will...
What would have been the alternative? Now that they've stopped or they've reduced borrowing, other than maybe trying as much as possible maybe to ensure that now they get more revenue domestically. What do you think should have been the alternative?
I think one of the ways that the government would have used is to, first of all, make sure that there is increased food production. And they have started, that one they have started because they gave Kenya farmers affordable fertilizer. That is a correct move, and I would thumbs up the government because of that. The other thing is that to make sure that those people, instead of increasing taxes, I would rather, right now, if I can tell you this, is that right now, Kenyans, the people who pay taxes in this country are only 14%. Out of 100% people who make businesses, who are in businesses, only around 14% of the country pays taxes. And if out of the 14% the people who pay taxes, we are collecting around 2 trillion annually. So that is to mean that if we could collect 30% of taxes from the other people who dodge taxes, because a lot of people don't pay taxes in this country. Yeah. Many people dodge, some have declared their profits or their businesses so that they either underpay taxes or they don't pay at all. Plus they also rogue Kenya Revenue Authority officials maybe who collude with some business people not to pay taxes. So if the government could tighten all the loopholes such that they can be able to collect between 30% and 50% taxes. If the government can collect 50% taxes, that is to mean that you can collect 6 trillion annually. And you know our budget is around 3 trillion. So if we can collect 6 trillion annually, it means that we can fund our budget 3 trillion. The 3 trillion that is left, we can do infrastructure projects like building roads, building industries, equipping our hospitals with the drugs and what have you. That's the target of the president. However,
as we continue, I think that is where the government had made a good strides, whereby they introduced the Huduma number in the last regime, but it was politicized. It's only now when the current regime has come and so, because they're the ones who were against the Huduma number, you remember? Now when they came to the government this time around, I think one of the ways to be able to manage the defaulters of the KRA is by having this Huduma number, and they want also to have what they are calling the digital IDs, whereby all your details, including the KRA number, where you work and everything, NHIF and SSF, is going to be in one card. I think this is one of the measures they are trying to put in place to be able to deal with the tax defaulters.
And I also think it is in relation with what, Kagi, you presented in your slide, the Tax Procedures Act. Because previously, as Bwana Irungu has said, part of the problem that we've been having is because of most of the Kenyans
don't pay taxes.
Now, with this maybe procedures and maybe with the tightening of these particular areas, we would want now to find out how sufficient or how efficient maybe this particular strategy and maybe the kind of impact or the kind of effect we're going to see once this particular issue maybe is looked into. And I think even the president, very recently we saw him with the meeting with the KRA. So in terms of the goodwill, it's like maybe the president is very, very determined to ensure that there will be no any tax evasion moving forward.
Yeah, plus now if I can remind you is that many house developers or real estate developers, they don't pay taxes. For example, if I can ask you, where maybe you reside, you rent. I don't know if you live in your own home or you are renting.
Or you're waiting for the government.
Or you're waiting for the government. Majority of people who rent houses don't, the homeowners don't pay taxes. The landlords don't pay tax. And you know, they are only required to pay 10%. If like you collect in rent like half a million, you are only requested to pay 10%. You see, that is very minimal. 10% of 500,000, you only pay 50,000 shillings. So if majority of our people who are maybe landlords, they pay taxes. Some people don't pay taxes, like maybe lawyers, they're withholding tax. Some of them don't pay, they dodge. Yeah, some people maybe like doctors who have their private practices, they don't pay. It's called withholding tax. So if we could catch all those people who are tax defaulters, and be, like I've said, if we collect 50% of the taxes, we will collect 6 trillion annually. If we could maybe even double, we are collecting 14%. If we could take like 28% or 30%, that means we can collect 4 trillion annually. Now you see our budget is 3 trillion. So if we collect 4 trillion or 6 trillion, that is to mean that we can be able to finance our budget wholly without any external debt. And the remainder of 1 trillion or 3 trillion, we can do our infrastructure projects.
So what we are actually saying is that maybe the government is also targeting, I remember when you started, you were saying the timing is wrong.
The timing
and
is
also
wrong,
maybe
yeah.
the Kenyans who are being targeted are also the wrong ones.
Yeah, because when you increase taxes, you want to kill poor Kenyans. Last time when I was here, I remember I analyzed this, like 5% of Kenyans are high net worth individuals. That's around 5% of 50 million is around 2.5 million. 2.5 million Kenyans are high net worth individuals who earn between 200,000 and above, 1 million, 10 million. You know, there are people who, through industry, they can even earn 10 million in a month. Yeah. However, that is high net worth individuals, 5%. 25% of Kenyans are middle income. All of us here, I'm sure we are middle income. Middle income means you earn between 50,000 shillings up to 200,000 shillings. That bracket is middle income. And then now, the remainder is 70%. 70% of Kenyans, which is 35 million Kenyans, they are poor people. They are considered by the government as poor. That is to mean that they earn between 50,000 and below. There are people who earn 1,000 in a month, 2,000, 5,000 in a month. That is to mean that they cannot afford medical care, they cannot afford food, they cannot afford to live well in a good house. Those are the people, majority of them live in the slums. So I was saying, if the best way would be to tax the rich. If you tax the rich, there is no worry. Tax the landlords, tax the lawyers, tax the doctors.
The MPs.
Yeah, members of parliament, a majority of them, they pay very little taxes also. The MPs, they exempt themselves. So, once you are taxing the 30% of Kenyans, that is okay. But immediately you start attacking the poor people, the mama mbogas, the boda boda, the people with trolleys selling eggs and sausage smokies. You want to follow those poor people? So unless you want to kill them. Yeah. And there are a majority of them in this country.
And something else that you also had some of the Kenyans talking about, those who were interviewed by our reporter Vincent Kimtai, is that most of them are also of the opinion that the government should first of all begin by creating employment for us, create conducive business environment for us. So it's like the case of misplaced priorities. Now the government has now begun by, first of all, putting a lot of pressure
on the poor
people. Yeah,
they are actually cannibalizing themselves. And if I can remind you, when this government came into power, do you know, Banakagi, this government was elected by the poor of this country. Because it was told, I remember when...
Yes, was.
Yeah, they were saying, this is a government of the poor, Mama Mboga, Boda Boda. What has happened now that the government has started cannibalizing on its own? The people who elected the government into power, they are the ones now that are feeling the heat and the effect of these draconian tax regimes. So I think it is coming at the wrong time, if you ask me. Yeah.
Mangicho, there is one thing that I'm trying to reflect in my mind, which I think you're going to give your take regarding to public participation. It is by law that you're supposed to provide an avenue for public participation when you want to make any changes in the law. And by the look of things, and I heard you giving an elaboration of what has been happening, there has been a lot of good public participation regarding this bill than any other bill in this nation.
And you've seen quite a number of organizations that have gone to the committee led by, is it Molo MP?
Yeah, Molo MP,
Kimani. And you see, I think today the individuals are going to present their proposals, the individual, the particular people.
So what exactly would be this committee, if I could cut you short, would be looking into? Is it in terms of the number of those who are opposing to make its decision?
Their work is to collect what the views of the public, whether you are opposing or proposing. Now, that's when I want to come to Mangicho. If you look at the public participation regarding to this bill, I think huge percent, if you look at the percent, maybe above 70%.
It is above 90.
90% against the bill. Now, I'm asking myself, if because others presented via email, others one-on-one memorandum, all those kind of things, but 90% are against the bill. If that is the case, what is the mandate of the members of parliament, the lawmakers, in making their own determination regarding the bill, because public has already given its position regarding the bill? It looks awkward if the members of parliament are going to gang up to pass the bill which public itself
are against.
And they are the majority, are against the bill.
You're actually
So what was the need for the public participation? I had one of the MPs yesterday in one of the talk shows called Osoro saying that even though the public are against the bill, the work of the leaders is to guide the public towards the right direction.
So they'll guide the public by passing the bill.
Yes, it means the public are moving astray.
Yeah, because I also saw one of the members of parliament that I think it was Honorable Gathoni Omushomba, Githunguri member of parliament.
She's against.
He actually happened to be with some of our constituents.
Yeah.
And she was categorically asking them, what would you like your member of parliament to do? Should she pass the bill or should she drop the bill? And they were very candid. They were very affirmative. Don't pass the bill.
Yeah. If the public have given their views and their position, how else can you be able to overturn that?
Yes.
I saw
maybe in like 1.5 minutes because of time.
Okay. I saw Mr. Kuria Kimani, the MP for Molo, who is now the chairman of the finance committee in Parliament, saying that they might be forced to go back to the drawing board and maybe make amendments on the bill. However, even if the bill is made amendments, I think it's still toxic and poisonous for this country. And even if I would see the president, I would tell him on the face like that. Because, like I said earlier, we don't want this president to be a one-time president. Because this bill will work against him. And Kenyans are very unforgiving. If you remember last time, because Kenyans were not happy with Uhuru Kenyatta, you all saw how they reacted to him when he was going out of power. So I think, and the president should listen to people, because the people are the ones who elected him.
And of course, tomorrow he will be leading Madaraka Day celebrations. I think they'll be happening in the county of Embu.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
County of Embu.
If you are to give him a word, what would you want him to do?
I would want him to shelve it until maybe such a time that the country is maybe on a positive trajectory economically. Yeah, because right now we are on a downward trend. The country is moving badly. Economically, we are doing badly.
Yes. Thank you so much. Our guest, an economic and also a political expert and analyst, Bwana Joseph Irungu. It's been a pleasure having you today in this particular show, and also even helping us to be in a position to know maybe what exactly this particular finance bill is all about and what maybe should be done. And of course, also getting to hear the opinions of Kenyans. And I think, Kagi, that is quite captivating. At least now our viewers are in a position to know what entails this particular bill.
Yeah. Correct. And maybe we want to thank the viewers for finding time to follow us. Is them to be able to talk to their leaders regarding the finance bill. Let's talk to them more.
So Kenyans will actually be watching on how individual members of parliament.
Yes, in fact, there's a proposal.
So many of them are worried.
They are proposing, because there are many ways of voting in parliament.
Yes.
They are pushing whereby. No, they don't want a secret ballot.
Yes.
You vote. It's called what? I would say you vote in open. You stand. You say your name, and then you declare you vote yes or no.
Yes.
Is what they're advocating for.
That is what
to be able to understand where every member of parliament is standing regarding to this matter.
Okay. Because I also thank, I know the media people, especially the newspapers, usually indicate in the newspaper, in the local dailies, they usually write member of parliament, so and so,
yes
or where,
sure,
voted yes or no.
Yeah, so we'll be following up on that to be able to know how is it that individual members of parliament will actually be voting for this particular bill. But thank you so much also for having us today in this particular show. And also on behalf of the entire crew, we've had an entire crew that has made this show a success. Our cameraman and directors, we have Jeff Kerr there, we have Japheth Mosioka, we have also in the control room, that is Mason Martin, also in the transmission, Natasha, and on behalf of my entire course, that is Paul Kagi. My name is Mangicho Mola. We'll see you next week at a time like this. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
Yes, again, my name is Paul Kagi. I want to thank you for finding time to be able to follow us today. Mine is to wish you a happy Madaraka Day tomorrow for a